And she said, women cannot bird bath like men do because, to use the term, we secrete from places that men don't have. And he made us run up and down from the Oggy Wagon to the other end of the parade square until one of us was sick in our gas mask. Don't bulkhead doors, brace. Now, about 11 of us stuck behind this bulkhead door with no toilet. Once it all sort of calmed down, we hadn't sunk and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, please open up the bulkhead.
Ahoy, ahoy to all you smooth sailors out there, and welcome aboard the Deck Tales podcast. I'm your host and captain, Sammy Catlin, and this is where we dive headfirst into life at sea. From stunning destinations to unexpected storms, our guests have stories that will make you laugh, gasp, and maybe even shed a tear. Whether you're a seasoned sea dog or simply curious about life on board, Deck Tales is your boarding pass to a world of nautical narratives. My guest today is Mr. Martin Barmby, aka Barney. He spent over 2 decades underwater, fixing what couldn't fail and leading when it really mattered. He's a former Royal Navy submariner, an engineer, a mentor, and a man who believes you never walk past a problem. He's got stories from diesel boats, nuclear subs, and life after the Navy. So let's anchor up and dive right in. Hello, Martin.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, sir. You well?
I'm good, yes, yeah. Well, as well as a 57-year-old veteran submariner can be, but I'll survive.
You'll survive. Well, I prepared a little backdrop for you, just something to make you feel at home.
Okay. You seem to have frozen, and I've got a cracking Wi-Fi signal. Oh, there you are. You're moving again now.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes a little bit of time for the kinks. It takes a little bit of time sometimes for the kinks to work themselves out.
Yeah.
Apologies for the little technical difficulties in which I experienced just now. We're not perfect. Sometimes these things happen. I literally was all ready to send you a link and then things froze and nothing was working. And so it was a case of reset, reboot. And then, of course, once you restart everything, Martin, other things that you forgot that you had installed on your computer, they pop up when you reboot. And then you're like, no, close this, close that. I don't need you right now. And then, of course, to add insult to injury, I get people messaging me saying that they need a job done right now in East London to do some signage or something. I mean, what are it's been quiet all week. But, of course, the moment I sit down to talk to somebody, that's when I'm needed. Classic. But we connected. I got referred to you. Was it
Jonah? Yeah.
Jonah. You call him Jonah?
Yeah, Jonah is the nickname for Jones. I've never called him Richard. He's never called me Martin. He's always called me Barney. We don't do first names.
You don't do first names? Yes.
Very, very few people got called by their first name. Very few.
Well, because it does say Barney on my screen. So
that's
you go
because I typed in, I'm Martin Barney Barmby. That's me.
Yeah, Barmby is your surname, but that's your nickname is Barney, or is it something to do with Barney Rubble Chaos?
No, it was all to do with, it was my nickname at school, and when you join up, because don't forget I was in the TA and I was then in the Navy. Yeah. You've got to get in first with your nickname, otherwise they give you one. I mean, one that springs to mind is Seal Pup, because everybody just wanted to club him to death. So you've got to get in quite early. I mean, my elder brother was also in the Navy. He was a Barney. So I was baby Barney. Even though I'm a foot taller than him, I was always baby Barney. It's
like little John. It's unique.
Yeah. My nephew, he was a Barmby, but he was Nick Barmby because Nick Barmby was big then. He's actually a very distant relative of mine. His dad, Jeff Barmby, was my dad's cousin, and Nick Barmby actually played for England. I don't follow football at all.
It does sound like a familiar name. What year are we talking that he played for the England team?
We're talking in the late 90s. And he played for Tottenham Hotspur. He played for Hull. I can't remember who else he played for, but I actually walked past him once in Hull when I was home on leave, and I had my eldest daughter with me. And as I was looking, I thought, I know him. And then I suddenly clicked. that's Nick Barmby. And as I got past, my daughter said, my God, you can tell he's a Barmby, can't you? And I was like, you can, because we all look the same.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. Yes, yeah. If you bring up a picture of Nick Barmby and me, you'll go, yeah, he's a Barmby.
I bet if I looked at a picture of him, I'd probably be like, oh, yes, of course. But
yes.
I lost interest with football for the years I was at sea because I could never keep up. Yeah. And then when lockdown started and there was nothing else to watch on telly, I started watching it and got back into it. But just going back to nicknames and early on, you said about getting in early with your nicknames.
Yeah.
I've had lots of nicknames over the years, not all of them very complimentary. But the first one my friend gave me was Captain, because he thought my surname, Catling, was actually Captain. So whenever we were playing in the playground, he was like, you could be the captain because your name's Sam Captain. I was like, I'll take it.
yeah. That's the kind of thing you live with. I mean, we had one lad, his surname was Page, and he said, oh, please don't call me Elaine. And of course, that was it. He became Elaine Page.
Memory. Yeah. I know the song. Elaine Page from Cats.
Yeah. And he was called Mush because he was from Pompey, and every third word that came out of his mouth was mush. Isn't it mush? You're right, mush. And so he became Mush. Yeah.
Pompey for the Americans is not our slang name for Pompeii. Pompey is Portsmouth.
Yeah.
But so I call you Martin because I'm not in the RN, or do I call you Barney because that's
I prefer Barney. I really do. If you want to call me Martin, that's fine. If you want to call me Barney,
we'll go with what you prefer, mate. I mean, Barney's your unofficial name. Yeah. You can call me what you like as well, I guess.
You're Sam, aren't you?
I'm Sam. But so we've basically been connected via somebody else I had connected with recently for the podcast. Yep. Thank you very much for the info that you sent over, because that was able to really help me understand a bit about your journey, which has been on paper very impressive. And I'm sure you could probably talk for a long, long time and write many books, I'm sure.
It's the law. Once you've been in the Navy and once you've left, you have to constantly tell people you're in the Navy and what you did.
Yeah. So well, if you do it this way, you could probably get away with telling it once and then that's it. You don't need to. You can just refer people to the episode of the podcast. It's all there.
I can. Well, I could refer you to the book that Jonah wrote, Living the Dream, Serving the Queen. I've got a chapter in that as well. So there's bits in there. Yeah.
So Richard Jones, he was somebody I spoke to recently. He's written a flip load of books.
He certainly has, yeah.
Have you decided to try any writing yourself?
Absolutely not. No, I struggle with text messages, so why I would write a book, I don't know. I have helped him with a few things. One of his books that he's doing for next year is about Bridlington in World War II. Me being from Bridlington, I'm very interested in it, and we've actually literally in the past 4 months just formed a reenactment society. I don't know if you know anything about reenactment. Sick, and that means really good. I know, because I've got an apprentice on my shift, and he told me sick is good. So every time I hear sick, I've got to go. That means it's good. Sorry. So
that was do you know what, Barney? That was a knee-jerk reaction. I don't use sick in my everyday vernacular.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't, but I didn't, because I do a bit of extra work for film and TV. Yeah. And the last time I did anything where I was dressed up for something period was I did 3 months on Ridley Scott's Napoleon, and I was and I was French and I was English. I had no allegiance. They just put me in different wigs, different costumes. But
so when you were French, you were like this all the time then, yeah?
For the audio only listeners, Barney just put his hands up in his head like he was surrendering.
Sorry. Yeah.
And for the American listeners, whereabouts is Bridlington?
It's on the East Coast. It's on a direct line with Liverpool. So if Liverpool's on the West Coast, Bridlington's on the East Coast. About halfway up the UK, really. Got the River Humber just south of us. Flamborough Head, obviously, for your American listeners. Battle of Flamborough Head. They still haven't found the Bonamy Richard, so that's quite big in the American scene, if you like. Clive Cussler came and tried to find it. They still haven't found it. They're still looking for it.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I think Richard touched on that. I think he touched on that. Yeah,
he would do. Yeah, I'm sure he's written a book on it. Yeah. I mean, during the First World War, we had battleships chasing the Germans that had bombed Scarborough and Hartlepool, and then during the Second World War, obviously, we had a lot of ships up and down, coal from Newcastle to London. London, steel, munitions and everything else. Prime invasion territory. I mean, the east coast of England, but especially where we are, we've got really low cliffs. And if you were to look at it from the air, which I was very fortunate to do last year. A very good friend of mine, an RAF veteran, said, "What are you doing D-Day?" And I said, "Well, I was going to go to the War Memorial at 11 o'clock." And he says, "Do you fancy taking photographs of it from the air?" And I was like, "Yes, please." So he took me up and we actually did the full length of what were the D-Day beaches, which in effect was the same size as what we've got just behind me on the east coast of Yorkshire. And I just imagined those hundreds of thousands of men, the landing craft, the ramps. I mean, we've still got the dugouts. I mean, my dad was a farmer and the dugouts I played with as a child, they were manned from like 1940 to late 1944. A big concrete bunker, no toilet, no stove, no hot water, cold water. You literally went in for, your 24-hour shift, had to go and dump out the back, dig a hole, cover it over again, and then somebody else has come in. And the bizarre thing is, the exits for the pillboxes on the cliff top were facing towards the enemy. And that's ruthless. That means you fought till the last round. Because if their exits were behind, you would go, "I've had enough of this," and run away. Mm-hmm. But they actually put them so that you had to go out into fire to escape. And the more I look at it, I mean, obviously, the older I get, and, I was Army, Barmby mad. I mean, my dad was just too young for the Second World War, but all his cousins, they all served. We had 5 of the Barmbys. King's Own York's Light Infantry became number 2 commando. Wilfred was killed on a Japanese hell ship out in Singapore, Royal Artillery. Margaret, she was a Wren down at Dartmouth. Another one was Royal Artillery, and I was just... But they used to come and visit us, or we'd go and visit them. And as a child, I just absorbed all this.
You're swimming in all these stories.
Yeah, I mean, my milkman was landed at Arnhem. He was in Operation Market Garden.
So is that why you went into the submarine corps? Because you just wanted to get away from it as far as you could? And
no. My brother was a submariner. I wanted to be a gunner. That's what I wanted. I wanted to fire big guns. And he was like, "Don't be a sailor. Get yourself a trade." Because I was just army, gun shooting. I mean, I still do shooting now, and I still enjoy it, but I'm glad I didn't do it as a trade, because there isn't a big calling for people who can shoot big guns when you leave the Navy. So I joined as a marine engineering mechanic, and I became an electrician. So I learned all about generating electricity, storing electricity, earths, faults, continuity, all that kind of stuff. And I now use that in my second full-time career after leaving the Navy. It took me a while to settle, but I've been working at a power station now for 12 and a half years, and it's just like being back in the Navy, because I get to go in, check everything's working all right, walk around, make sure everything's working all right. If it's not working, I tell somebody, whereas in the Navy, I would then have to fix it. Here, I go, "That's broken. I've shut it down. Can you tell me when it's fixed?" It's about a quarter of the responsibility in the work I had in the Navy. Because in the Navy, I was a chief, I was a section head, I had lads underneath me, I was a firefighter, I was a first aider, I ran my own stores accounts, I was the mess manager at one stage. You were doing everything. Whereas in civilian, basically, and it doesn't move. The power station doesn't move, don't forget. Yeah. Whereas my submarine generated electricity through the turbo generators, and it also generated electricity through motor generators, and it stored electricity in batteries, all the while being propelled underwater. So you've got this extra dimension where you can't contact your, original equipment manufacturer. You've got to fix it. It's down to you. Chief Barmby, why isn't it working? "I don't know, sir. Do you want it working or do you want it fixed?" And that's what I used to have to do. I'd either get it, he would say, "I want it working." So, right, I'll get it working in a few hours. "You want it fixed?" Takes a bit longer. But you'd always find a way to get it going. And the
paper over the cracks.
Yeah, the beauty of being a farmer's son, that's what farmers do. Because when you're out in the middle of a field and something breaks, my dad would, just get a bit of bail of bands, wrap it up, and put a stick in it, just that, there you go. And it would stay like that for 8 years. And then it would break and, oh, God, I know I meant to do that. But that mindset I took into the Navy, and you need that on submarines, because you can't just get a part helicoptered in or you contact your local authorised dealer. I was the local authorised dealer. I was the head of the high power section.
You know what? Yeah.
At me.
It's exactly, well, it's a throwback to, I think, the second or third episode I did with Deck Tales, and I had an electrician on a cruise ship, Bruce, and he said the exact same thing. You know, there's no call. Like, you can't phone it in and just have things delivered.
Yep.
You've got to be resourceful. You've got to do everything you can just to get things working again. You're out of it now. You've been working at the power station 12 years. Overall, nose to tail, how many years were you with the RN?
22 years, 2 months and 2 days. Not that I counted.
Not that you counted. So lots of twos in there.
There is, but yeah, that's exactly what it was. I joined on 16th, 1986, and I left August the 18th, 2008. So,
goodness.
Yeah.
And you've enjoyed your time away, or you still miss it?
Oh, I miss it every day. It's the work ethic, I think, is the hardest part. That's the biggest difference. In civilian life, it's always, that's not my job. That's somebody else's problem. And it still drives me to distraction now. When I go to work, if I don't find something wrong, I'm a little disappointed with myself.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not looking hard enough. But then you've got the young generation now, where when they're walking around, they've got the tablet in front of them because we have all our readings, and they're like this. Instead of put your readings in, put it away, and look round. And I talk to my brother about it all the time, the eldest brother, who was also a submariner. And he says the trouble is we're perfectionists, because if it's not right on board and you don't tell somebody, it'll kill everybody. You've got to be on top of it. And that's what we do. We notice that that's higher than it was yesterday, or that's lower than it was, or it's running noisier, or I'm deaf to high frequency due to servicing diesel electric submarines. So when I find something at work that's running noisy, I'm like, really? Am I the first person to hear this? And that's the standing joke. They're always like, but you're deaf. Well, I know, but how come nobody else has heard it? Because it's running like a bag of spanners, But it's just it's my mindset. And I talk about it to my brother all the time. He works in London, facilities management for a large government organisation. And he says about what he's found at his work, and I'll tell him what I found at my work. And he says, at the end of the day, go to work, do your job, go home. So that's all that matters. You've got to coast along. They're not the people that you serve with. Don't get me wrong. There is good people, but there's a lot of lazy people. It's like when you go to the supermarket. Why have you just abandoned that trolley there? Why is it sat in a parking bay? When 4 parking bays away, there's I look at people and I think,
where you could retrieve your pound, your token, or
why are people so lazy? I don't know. I don't get it. I'll give anything a go. Sadly, the last 2.5 years I've struggled. I've got degenerative spine disease, so I don't have the ability to lift and pull and tug like I used to. I can't bend over for any length of time. If I drop something on the floor, I've got knee pads on, I've got to drop to my knees to pick it up because, it just destroys me. The pain. I've had the nerve blocker injection. The options were an operation that had a 20% chance of a success with a 50-50 chance of paralysis. So I said, yeah, no thanks. I said, you can give me this nerve blocker. So I do still suffer, but as long as I get myself tucked in comfy, with me, my back, obviously you can't see it. I've got a cushion shoved in the small of my back, forcing my spine forward. I can walk for Britain. I cannot stand for longer than about a minute without it starting to hurt. And if I'm sat on an uncomfy chair, oh my God, it destroys me.
That's why your office seat is the sofa?
Yes, because I had to come and get myself comfy. I had to be right. Are you with me? So
of course, yeah. I would prefer you to be comfortable than sit in a position where you're not happy.
And obviously, being a good matlow, I've got the. There you go. I don't know if.
See, it's not yet Friday night for me. I've got work in the morning. But so let's just go back to the start. Yeah. You mentioned that you joined the Navy because your brother got you a head start, or he kind of was the reason that you joined.
I was an army cadet at my local school. We had had been a grammar school, but it became a comprehensive, and they kept on the combined cadet force. And I just fell in love with that. I loved ironing my kit, polishing my boots, pushing myself. And one of the teachers, Mr. Shilladay, now Dr. Shilladay of quantum physics, who I'm still very good friends with, because even though it's now a comprehensive school, we have an old boys club. It's actually called the Old Bridlingtonians Club, and I class him as a friend now. He was once my teacher, and I always remember I was waiting for the phone call from the Navy to say I passed and get a date, and it was a toss-up between the Royal Fleet Auxiliary or the Royal Navy, and the Royal Navy came through first, but I was away helping with the adventurous training camp with those cadets, and we were going up Helvellyn in the lakes. And just before Helvellyn, there's this, for want of a better word, I can't remember what it's called, a big pile of rocks called Mount whatever or Lump whatever. And he said, Martin, shall we go up on the top of this and meet them at the other side? I said, can we do that? He said, yeah, of course we can. Come on. He said, you know, that I can see you're chomping at the bit. I said, all right, yeah, let's do it. So we literally jogged up this pile of rocks. And then, as I was going up, I said to him, I love pushing myself to the limit. And he said, Martin, we've not even scratched the surface with you. And do you know what? Every time, when anything's ever been down with me and I was struggling, I used to think back to what Mr. Shillerday said to me, and I might even send him the link to this when he gets it, and he can be embarrassed, you know, and he knows it's on the internet. But he put that in my mind, and every time since then, when I've been like, do you know what? You can do this. All right. I failed. Did I fail any exams when I was in the Navy? 1 or 2, but I was just like, God. Mr. Shillerday could see this, he would, you know, and you have to just dig a bit deeper and just, you know, get back on track.
But do you feel like you're always trying to make him proud? Do you feel like, or just trying to prove him right? Or
no, I'm proving him right that he said, you know, we've not even scratched the surface. And I was like, I have got a lot to give, you know, which is why with me, you get 110%. You know, if you want something, I'll do it. If I can't, I can't do it. I'm a great believer in if I can help somebody, I will. And if I can't, I'll have to say, look, sorry, mate, I can't do that. But up to that point, I'll help you all I can. You know, and I mean, there's a lot more people a lot worse off than me. So if I can't help those that maybe just need help, you know, even if it's only a few kind words or a bit of banter or, come on, let's go out for a beer. Let's, you know, I haven't got any money. I don't care about the money. Come on, let's, you know, get you out. Just put a smile on somebody's face. That's what it's all about, isn't it? If we failed as humanity, if you can't help people, if you're just selfish and holding everything to your chest and not helping anybody, which is not what the submarine service is, because the submarine service, you either all surface or you all die. That's the easiest way to look at it. You know, but it's true, you know, because you can't walk past it because, I was a phase 2 instructor for my last, I taught people who were qualified in their trade to be submariners. I did it twice while I was in the Navy. So it was about 4.5 years in total. And I always said you operate at the edge of a whirlpool. So if you imagine a whirlpool like that and you're always operating right at that edge, but every time you walk past a problem and don't tell anybody, you move just a little bit further down into the...
Closer to the eye of the whirlpool.
And then you all of a sudden you can't get out. And now I've kept that mentality. If something's not right, all you've got to do is go, that's not right. And they go, oh yeah, we know about it. That's fine. That's it. I've done my job as long as we're aware. And, you know, but it's the people that walk past things. I mean, I do it when I'm in town. I'm like, I wonder if Yorkshire Water know they've got a leak there. And that drain pipe, look, it's not...
I love that as an analogy. That's good.
But it's true. You know, the more things you ignore, the more they build up and you can't get back. You know, eventually you reach this point of no return. And on a submarine, that's death and destruction. Pop. I mean, all right, well, let's talk about Thresher and Scorpion, the American boats. That did happen to them, but that wasn't caused by people ignoring things. But that shows you just how it was both of them were technical problems. And like K-19, exactly the same, was a technical problem. But that's how quickly it goes from normality to death. You know, it's literally, there isn't a gradual, it's normal death. You know, I mean,
well, I can see the synapses in your brain just firing like this and that. You've got so many stories to pull together. What I'm going to try to do is just to keep you on a.
Sorry, yeah, I apologize.
You know, it's absolutely brilliant. Great analogy. When you did your initial training, when you joined the Navy, you were how old?
I was 17 and 10 months when I joined up.
And so before you did that, you had a little bit of time working in the TA, which is the Territorial Army. And before that, obviously, you had 4 years in the Army Cadets. So you had that from an early age, 9, 10?
13 I joined cadets.
Cadets,
third year it was.
Because I don't think you can be younger than that, can you? to join?
You can now. It's 12 now. It's 12.
Oh, is it?
When I was a cadet, it was 13.
See,
it was 13 when I was a cadet.
obviously, for the internationals listening to this, obviously there's different ages for lots of different things. But in this country, obviously, we have everyone knows of the Scouts, and it's not a military organisation, but they teach you for things like being prepared and bushcraft sort of things. When I was a child, I was in the Beavers, which is the lowest sort of age you can be, the youngest age you can be to join. After Beavers, it goes into Cubs. After Cubs, it goes into Scouts. And if you're fed up with Scouts, then you go and join the Army Cadets.
Oh no, there's Venture Scouts. You've forgotten Venture Scouts.
I did. Yeah. But I finished with Beavers and I got put into Cubs, and I didn't like the boys in the class. I thought they were a bit mean, so I quit.
Right. Okay.
But then I did do a couple of years in the Army Cadets, and that was a long time ago. And obviously, I'm not a military man, but I did my time. I say I did my time like it was a indentured service. But so you did Navy training after TA and Army Cadets, but you said that you've also done Army drill training, and Army drill training is way harder.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not harder. It's just there's a lot of stomping. Imagine Dad's Army, Corporal Jones. Every now and then I would forget I was on a naval parade and I'd stomp my foot in, and it was just like watching that episode of Dad's Army where they goes, platoon, Chad, and then boom, from Corporal Jones. That I was like, oh. So
you were a bit more. You're supposed to tread a bit more lightly in the Navy.
Yes, yeah. You literally just slide your feet in the Navy, whereas in the Army, you bang.
Jump.
And in the end, it became a game. I would do it just to see if anybody noticed. I mean, like do class leader doing the eyes right, at HMS Raleigh like that. I'd be like, eyes right, and I'd go, oh, beggar, no, it's Navy, and I'd sort of slowly.
So the hand for the salute is different.
Yeah, so the hand came up like this, and I went, oh, no. And I'd always get away with it. But then once I became a senior rated petty officer and a chief, I would salute officers, and I'd just, morning, sir. And you could see them go, morning. And they knew you'd done something wrong, but they couldn't quite put their finger on it because obviously we had Royal Marines on the base. And in fact, if we ever passed an Army officer or a Royal Marines officer, I would always, morning, sir. And they'd go, the morning, chief. And you could see him, he's done something, but I don't know what.
It's like an Indian going, how? What?
Yes.
No, that's, is that racist? I don't know.
Yes.
Either way, you're getting confused with the hand signals.
Yes, but I did, towards the end of my career, I did it deliberately, just as fun.
But was the training or the Army drill particularly more like stressful or difficult?
For the Army, I was training to be I was a trained soldier. I was infantry soldier. I made it to Lance Corporal back then as a man underage. You weren't called a junior. At 17 and a half, you became a man underage. And at 17 and 7 months, I was promoted to Lance Corporal. And we had people in the Territorial Army who'd been there 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years and were still privates. I'd come from cadets, and in less than 7 months, I was senior to them.
Wow.
Because I'd been a cadet, and it was just, I was a little sponge absorbing it all. I knew the drills, I knew what to do, and so when I joined the Navy, I knew I could run myself ragged. The fitness side didn't bother me. I knew my way around a rifle. Navy drill was different to Army, but it's a lot easier is Navy drill, but it was just, like I say, every now and then I'd forget where I was and put 110, bang, oh, beggar, no, don't do that, but that was just one of them things.
But you wanted to join the Navy, you were doing the Army training, but you've gravitated towards the Navy.
Yeah, if I'm perfectly honest, it was the height of the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And as I say, my brother talked me out of being a gunner. Didn't talk me out of the Army, but I'd sort of had my heart set on the Navy as a gunner. And then I initially failed the medical for the Navy. And so I just went across to the TA recruiting office and joined them and proved myself over that 9 months, and went back to the Navy and said, look what I've just done in the 9 months that you said I'm not fit to do it. And they said, oh, okay, you can join. So I joined the Navy.
Yeah. Proof's in the pudding. Nice.
When I then joined the Navy, obviously it was all what I class as my leadership ability came from me being a cadet and being a Lance Corporal. I mean, at 17 and 10 months, to be in charge of people who were 6, 7, 8 years older than you is a big responsibility, isn't it? So I mean, and now you're classed as a child, aren't you? Up until you're 18, you are a junior soldier or junior sailor or junior airman. But back then I was just a man underage. I was 17 and 10 months, and the army had seen fit to give me that stripe and said, "You're in charge of them now." So, and I've just kept that going in the Navy. And
if you're good enough, you're old enough.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Age has nothing to do with it. I mean, I can remember chatting to young officers who were maybe, a year or two younger or a year or two older, but, I was very respectful. They were my superior because they were officers, but we were of the same age, We went to school at the same time. All right, they went to university perhaps, or they went to a private school or whatever, but, we still got on and we were adult. But when the brown smelly stuff hit the big twirly thing, he was an officer and I was a rating, and we just had to, you're absolutely right, and you just did it. But
because you got promoted so early on, did you feel that as an honour bestowed on you, or did it just add more pressure on you, work as well?
Honour's a strange word to use. I was pleased that all my hard work had paid off. Because when I did join the Navy and completed my Phase 1 and Phase 2 and Phase 3 training, I was then what was called a specially selected marine engineer mechanic, which meant I was selected for accelerated advancement. So look what I'd just done in the TA, 17 and 10 months, made it to Lance Corporal. A year to the day of joining the Navy, I was passed for leading hand in the Navy, which is like a corporal in the Army.
Oh, wow.
So after less than 2 years TA and regular service, there I was, ticked all the boxes to be a corporal. And it was literally a waiting game until the space became available in the Navy for a leading hand, and I was promoted.
Yeah, it's good. But did you ever take advantage of your...
Absolutely not. No. I had to use my rank, or rate as we call it in the Navy. Both times I caught people asleep on watch on the casing of the submarine. Now, they were the eyes and ears of the rest of us down below, because you had one awake in the control room and him up top, and I went up. We'd finished a charge or whatever, and I was just going up for a smoke or a can of beer, because don't forget, everybody smoked back then, and there was a big drinking culture. And I went up, and he was sat like this, and I just, bang, kicked his chair. But he, sorry, and I, get up. Oh, sorry, Barney, leading hands to you. How dare you? And I flipped, full palm. Don't you like eyes and ears? You just, I was fizzing. It's starting to annoy me now. I can remember it, and it was literally...
For the audio only listeners, I just want to say Barney's making me feel awful bashful right now.
Yeah, but they're the eyes and ears of all our shipmates on board, and they were asleep.
Yeah, there's no excuse,
and it's just
Barney,
not acceptable.
You've got to let it go, mate. It was
I can't. Honestly, it's my pet hate, because if you're looking after somebody else, and you can't be bothered to stay awake. I mean, you see it all the time on these military programs when they catch people falling asleep on sentry duty. Yes, it's soul destroying, but do you know what? It's a very important job. Their lives depend on you staying awake and watching for the enemy. Their lives on board, my life on board depended on him staying awake. Oh, and the submarine, the ropes snap. I mean, starting to sink alongside, and we're all down below. Do you know what I mean? It's
it won't wash, as they say.
Yeah.
Was you ever aware of any other instructors that made up rules just for the fun of it to see if other recruits would follow them?
My Phase 1 instructor, RS, I won't say his name.
But he was taking the piss.
No, he was evil. He had small man syndrome. Oh. And it was just after the Falklands War, so it was 1986, and we were all marine engineering mechanics and weapon engineering mechanics. And he basically said, "Oh, yeah, if you're going ships, don't worry, you'll be the first ones to be killed when the exercise hits." And you're like, You're sick. Why would you say something like that? I mean, he had us running up and down. We did the assault course 25 times. All the other classes did it 5 times. In 7 weeks at HMS Raleigh, I did the assault course 25 times because he wanted the trophy for the fastest class on the assault course.
Oh, what? Even though, so was he just getting you guys to do it? He wasn't taking part in...
Oh, no, he wasn't taking part. No. Oh, I mean, there was a thing called an oggy wagon. An oggy wagon is basically a burger van. In Cornwall, you call it oggies. Oggies are pasties.
Okay.
And this one night, he wasn't around for me to ask for his permission to let the class to go down to get more food, because you're burning calories. I mean, I lost weight, basically. You're just burning calories all the time. Mm-hmm. And one of the instructors in there, and he said, look, I can't let you go because you're not my class. He said, you're class leader. And I thought, well, okay, yeah, I'm class leader. He's delegated me. I said, right, okay, 2 of us will go. I said, I'll go. One other, got a list of what everybody wanted, went down, came back, ate it, not a problem. And then when he came back an hour later, he said, you've been to the Oggy Wagon? I said, and I explained that, I said, well, I went to find you RS, but you weren't there. And so I asked the PO, and I said, well, you've delegated me as class leader to, make these decisions, and you've let us go every other night. I didn't think it'd be a problem. So, right, okay, yeah, everybody that's had an Oggy, get their gas masks. So we all went to our gas masks, and he made us run up and down from the Oggy Wagon to the other end of the parade square until one of us was sick in our gas masks.
Oh, what a prick.
He went, oh, that's all I wanted to see, and that was it, Anyway, needless to say, a year later, he was thrown out the Navy because the man was a psycho. He was just proper, full on. I mean, if you think back to Deep Cut in the 90s, he was on part. The thing is, he never struck you. He never hit you. He didn't do that. What he'd do is, I mean, when we were coming back from Pier Cellars, everybody else had a few pints and they got the wagons back. They made us run back with all our kit. So we'd had 4 or 5 pints, a nice big Cornish pasty or pie and chips or whatever it was, and everybody else is going back on the wagon, and we ran the however many miles it was back. In fact, I think it was about halfway, if I remember right, that they stopped the wagons, got us off, and obviously numerous of us were sick and whatever, but he never laid a hand on you. Do you know what I mean? It was just all the stuff he could do, and thankfully, and I know he got thrown outside, I know he did, because he was just an absolute bully.
You only have to think, Barney, as bad as he had it in for you lot, in order for him to have been like that, there must have been somebody before who was doing it to him for him to...
Quite possibly. I mean, I remember my brother telling me a story. He joined up at 16 and left because he had a bully who just made everybody's life hell. And when he rejoined at 18, he was a little bit older. He'd had a job as a car mechanic. And he remembered bumping into him a few times in Plymouth Dockyard or Portsmouth Dockyard. And he thought, yeah, you don't remember me, but I remember you. And so, that was 73. My brother suffered that, so, and there was me in 1986 and I suffered it, so, I mean, you've only got to look in the news, a very sad case of that gunner, the female gunner who committed suicide a couple of years ago. With all, that is just, I mean, sometimes when you read things like that, you're embarrassed to say that I'd been a senior NCO. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I never did anything like that. And if I'd have seen anything like that, I would have come down on it like a ton of bricks, But some senior NCOs are rubbish,
With not exposing, but talking about your time in the forces, are there lots of guidelines about what you can and can't say? And is there like a statute of limitations on that?
Are you talking? What do you mean? What we're talking about now?
Like if you're in the military now, and then you decide to go on a podcast and talk about your experiences.
Oh no, yeah, you've got to be very careful. Obviously, I mean, I've been out 17 years. I couldn't tell you any pressures or temperatures or anything. Deep dive test pressure of a submarine. I couldn't, because I've signed the Official Secrets Act and it's good for life. All I'm telling you about is the stuff that went on while I was on board and. The people around you. I mean, every now and then at work, they'll have a problem with something, and all of a sudden it'll just come back into my head, and I'll just spew it out, and then all the lads are like, "God, where did that come from?" I said, "I don't know, but don't ask me again." But I've just remembered that, because in the Navy I operated and maintained, whereas here all I do is operate.
And sometimes it just takes a little prod to get you to spill.
Yeah, and the lads are like, where's that come from?
I'm sorry, I blacked out, guys. I'm sorry.
Exactly, that is exactly it. It just comes rolling back to you.
So, how many vessels in your time? 22 years, you said?
I served on HMS Illustrious, where I did my specially selected marine engineering mechanic, Otter, Opportune, Vigilant Port twice, and Vanguard for a trip. So 5 vessels, 1 ship, 2 diesel electric, and 2 nuclear Vanguard class
subs.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have a favourite and a least favourite vessel?
My favourite one would have to be the Opportune, without a doubt. That I was on there the longest for 3.5 years, and they were my brothers. They were family. I'm still in regular touch with all of them. Only the other week, we just heard of one of them dying, 3 years younger than me, and I've just put on the reunion page, I said, guys, we need to meet up for a nice reason, so I'm trying to get a load of them to go down to London for the first weekend in November, which is the Submariners Remembrance Weekend. and then we can just go and meet and reminisce for nice reasons. I mean, I can't make the guy's funeral next week, unfortunately, because I shift work. I've got to give 5 weeks' notice.
But you had a funeral today, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. There was my next door neighbour, Len and Sandra. Len was in the Navy, and Sandra was a Wren. She passed away 14th of August. So I had all me. I was in two minds whether to sit here with my blazer and my shirt on and everything because I'd my medals and all that. But I thought, no, do you know what? Just relax. You've had a day.
You'd be the first to do that.
Yeah, whatever.
But so the opportune was your favourite. Sorry about asking you about the funerals and stuff. We try to keep it light on this show.
Yeah. No, it's fine. No.
The best was the opportune. The worst? If you could be pushed to pick one that was like, worst of a good bunch, right? Let's call it that. You didn't hate it. It's just not as good as the others.
There was some people on board who were bullies. I'd have to say it was the Otter. It was my first submarine. They didn't like me because I'd come from ships and I was senior to them straight away because I was passed for leading hand. And there was people on board who'd been passed for leading hand 7, 8, 9 years.
Bit of resentment in there.
I'd been in the Navy 18 months by the time I joined that submarine. And then I was passed for leading hand and senior to them, and they didn't like that.
See, with that sort of thing, like when you're passing up the ranks and you're a specially selected advanced learning candidate and all this stuff, it's almost like you've got a target on your back, Barney, and people are going to prod you and test you more because they're like,
I never thought about it like quite possibly. I mean, I just got on with it and qualified, and then I went away on Killick's course, and I came back as a leading hand, and then I was leading hand, and nobody could say anything. It's irrelevant how long I'd been in, because they're not laundry marks. You know what I mean? I'm in charge.
That's it.
So,
them stripes, you've earned them stripes.
Yes, yeah.
What would you say is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being never, ever again, how bad it is to have a shower on a submarine?
Well, I'm going to drag this out because on my first submarine, we had what's called a desalination plant, which was basically a kettle that you boiled seawater in and caught the vapour and condensed it. It never worked. So consequently, we used to shower religiously on a Sunday, water on, water off, soap up, water on, rinse off. That's you.
Okay.
Once a week.
Once a week?
Once a week.
And would you do that all at the same time?
No, you just, there was only... The junior 8 shower became a space for some sneaky beaky radio listening device. So we lost our shower. So there was only the officers' shower and the senior 8s. So you had to go and ask the senior 8s for permission. And, so there was 68, 75 of us, however many, depending on how we were on board. And you got a shower. Some lads didn't shower at all.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. I kid you not. They were literally going back to the World War II days of you sail and you don't shower or change anything. And I couldn't do it.
There's people that shower twice a day.
I'd done poos in the woods and washed my Nixon socks in a stream and, put them around your combat jacket under your webbing to dry. And I'd done all that. And no, not when we had that. So then I joined the Opportune and we had a reverse osmosis plant and it made 10 gallons of fresh water an hour.
Oh, so you could shower whenever you wanted?
No, we could shower twice a week, but exactly the same routine. So it was probably a Wednesday and a Sunday or a Thursday and a Sunday. But you could also wash your kit. So we had plastic buckets. In fact, on the Otter, we actually had the washing powder, or Dobie dust as we called it, that worked with salt water. It didn't. It's an absolute myth. You can't. There's no way you're going to clean anything with salt water. But anyway,
no.
And there was salt water soap. That's an urban myth. But on the Opportune, you could wash it and then you put it in a bucket of salt water, and that would kill all the suds, and then rinse it in fresh again. And at least you had clean-ish clothing to put on twice a week. So what I used to do was, in between showering, I would also change my overalls again. So shower on a Wednesday, change my overalls and T-shirt on a Friday, shower on a Sunday, change my overalls and T-shirt. Are you with me? So every 2 or 3 days you were in clean ish,
in bracket quotes, yeah,
clothing. So.
But there's people that wouldn't shower even on the 1 day a week. Oh my god! And they were at sea for how many months usually?
Oh, I mean, diesel boats. Longest, I think. I'm trying to think of the longest dive I did on diesel boat was 6 weeks. And when I was on the Otter, probably about 6 weeks. Yeah, so there'd be some people that
no shower. That is scummy, man. I mean, one of my questions, I don't know why I put it down, it just came to me when I was trying to think up questions, was what is the worst smell you've smelled at sea? But I think that's probably the answer.
No, because it was when people had showered. You'd be like, God, have you had a shower? What, are you dirty or something? You could actually tell the clean people over the dirty people because everybody smelt bad.
Right.
Because you all smelt of oil and sweat and diesel. And when somebody had a shower, you're like, whoa, God,
it really heightens up.
Yeah.
So then it is sort of the answer that it all links back to the showers.
Yes, ultimately, yeah.
But so in the day of your life working on these ships, was it almost kind of the same there or thereabouts, going around checking, fixing things?
Yes, I mean, basically, we used to work back after we worked a 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 system. So you're either 3 hours on, 6 off, or 3 hours on, 9 off, depending how many there was. And then during the night, 4 hours on, 8 off, or 4 hours on, 12 off. Because it was weird how they did it. They had watchkeeping for 3-4 hours, but you were full on and you're responsible for it. Mm-hmm. And on diesel boats, I started off as the number 2 to my leading hand, and I would do all the scrubbing out and battery dips and check this, check that, and then operate this, operate that. Once you become a leading hand, it's on you, and I've got to tell him to go and do his bits and whatnot. And then when you go to nuclears, it changes. I think the whole nuclear reactor thing changed it, and you became very top heavy with management. That's the best way to call it. So whereas on a diesel electric submarine, I operated the breakers, I put the load on, I decided that I didn't decide it, I obeyed the telegraphs and did whatever it was. Whereas on a nuclear submarine, you've got an engineering officer of the watch, you've got a nuclear chief of the watch who can work as the engineering officer of the watch, you've got a main control house operator, you've got a secondary console panel operator, you've got your main machinery space senior, you've got your he called?
It's well ingrained in you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the other one was called. MEA of the watch. Then you've got your low-level stoker. Then you've got your MS2 killer, and it was a real hierarchy of and I couldn't do anything until he'd give me the nod to do that bit, and he had to finish his bit before I could do this bit. Whereas on a diesel electric submarine, it was me and my lad. So that was a little bit of a culture shock, but it's the way it is. It's a nuclear reactor, I mean, there are dangerous things in the hands of idiots, aren't they? So you've got to operate them correctly, and if you don't, they're inherently safe by design in that if you get it wrong, it'll all stop doing its thing, but you can't propel the submarine through the water and evade the torpedo or do whatever, so you've got to do it right, which is why you train and practice. I mean, if the big angry doorbell went off while you were asleep, that's the general alarm.
Yep, I got that reference.
Oh, right, okay. You'd be in your bed and you're like, and you'd be doing a drill like that, and then, no, it's a bunk. No, I'm all right. I'm back to sleep. Because it was second nature. Yeah. Because you train hard, you fight easy. I mean, it's the Falklands is a prime example. The battle for the Falklands was won on the Brecon Beacons, because without Senny Bridge and the Brecon Beacons, what those troops went through, because in the Brecon Beacons, it's like the Falklands. You can have 4 seasons in one day: snow, rain, boggy, tufts of heather, this, that, rocks, and then they went to the Falklands and they absolutely whooped the Argentinians, didn't they? Train hard, fight easy.
Wasn't much of a battle, was it, really, by all accounts?
I'm not. What I will say is they trained for it and they fought hard and they used all their training, and they just, without the Brecon Beacons, the Falklands could have been different, I think. And I mean, I've read up on as a child, I read up on it, and I've got friends who served in the Falklands, more on ships. I know of a couple who were land-based, but without a doubt, it was won on the Brecon Beacons. Without the Brecon Beacons, Falklands. Yeah, you just Google it.
To say that it was an easy fought battle is like, the most redundant thing ever, because I weren't there, you weren't there, we don't know. Well, you were there, but we can't say it was different for everyone. In some places it was a lot harder than it was for others, right? So I wanted to ask you this: in your opinion, what is the hardest and what is the easiest job in the RN?
in the Royal Navy, I'm going to talk about submarines now. You've got to look at it from two sides, whether you're at sea or whether you're alongside. Because dived, back aft, the marine engineers have to keep it going. So you're constantly operating it, maintaining it, fixing it if it breaks.
Yeah.
The forward, listening to sonar, they are the eyes and ears of that submarine. It blows my mind how they could tell how far away a ship was and how many propeller blades it had and which way it was going and how fast it was going just by... I mean, I used to love going forward and sitting with the lads on watch and just... It was somebody new to talk to because obviously I'd be taught for 4 hours to all my mates back aft. But then I'd go forward, have my scran, and then I'd go and sit in the sound room for an hour and I'd go sit in the control room, or go, sit with the weaponeers at I loved camp control and monitoring position. But the camp watchkeeping, all you can picture is somebody sat there going, right, guys, today we are got... It's not that kind of camp, but it's just one of them things that sticks in your mind,
Stop it.
Yeah, exactly. And but it was just new people to talk to, so I'd learn a bit about their jobs, and they were telling me their job without giving away any secrets. But it was just their time was going faster, my time was going faster. They were interested that somebody was interested in them, and I was interested in what they were doing. But once you get alongside the sailors, there's no sonar running, there's no radar running. They're literally, you've got this pool of manpower, about 40 people who can't do their job. So you've got to gamefully employ them, scrubbing, painting, chipping, sorting out the stationary locker, swapping navigation, whereas back aft, we're ripping it all apart. And we've got to maintain it, or we couldn't fix that at sea, we're now fixing that. So I would say at sea, easiest, back aft. Alongside, definitely forward, because they literally used to just find rubbish jobs for them to do, so that you didn't have this group of matlows twiddling their thumbs and probably thinking up something stupid that would not go down very well. So
yeah, but in your opinion, because you haven't been in the RN for a while, do you think that what you've just said, your opinion of who has it easiest and who has it toughest, is that still applicable today, you think?
Oh, absolutely. I've got many friends who are still serving, both people who I taught to be submariners and people who I served with who went on. In fact, most of them are 57. One of them's still in. He's got another 3 years to go. I bumped into him last October. And yeah, that's not changed. That has... and it's nice to keep in touch with them just to make sure that the Navy that I was a part of is still maybe not getting it right. It's still doing what it's supposed to do, which is take violence to the enemy and defend the realm, because the thing is, with the Navy, you go to sea, and in effect, you don't go to war every time, but you're doing your job all the time. Whereas in the Army, if they're not engaging the enemy and taking violence to the enemy, they have to practice it. So you've got to take them to the Brecon Beacons, Canada, Northern Germany, wherever, but they're not. They are doing their job, but it's without the added element of when you're at sea on a submarine, you are not only fighting the submarine, but you're fighting the sea as well, aren't you? Because you're in a steel tube X amount of meters under the North Atlantic, whereas in the Army, they can't constantly be sending them on exercise, playing war. They have to be gainfully employed,
With the differences of then and now, there are differences, I'm sure, but are they at least taking more showers these days?
No, it's still the same. It's the Vanguard class submarines that I served on are still the same. I mean, a friend of mine, she was one of the first, I'm going to call them Wrens, they hate that term, but she was one of the first females to first serve on submarines. Yeah. And when I met her after training patrol, because I used to be involved with the cadets, and I actually met her when I took cadets up to Faz Lane. And there was these, I'm going to call them Wrens. They hate that term, but when I joined up, they were Wrens. I know they're not Wrens, they're just females, but you just call them Wrens, it's easier. And that's when I met her. And then about 2 years later, Women's Royal Naval Service. It was World War II. In fact, it was World War One, actually. I then met her about 2 years later. There was another Matlow from Brid brought his girlfriend down and said, "Oh, you fancy going out for a pint, Barney?" "Yeah, I'll come out for a pint, mate." And I kept looking at her, and she said she was in the night, and I said, "I know you from." She said, "I know you," and all of a sudden it clicked. I was like, "You were one of the trainee." I said, yes, yeah. And then she realised, you were that sea cadet officer. Yes, that was me. We just got chatting. And anyway, she hadn't qualified by then. Anyway, about 6 months later, she come back. She qualified. First thing I did, shook her hand. Well done, shipmate. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Oh, is that sisterhood now? She sort of laughed.
Welcome to the hood.
Yeah, and I said, what was it like? And work up, this, that, and the other. And she said, women cannot bird bath like men do because, to use the term, we secrete from places that men don't have. And she said, you just can't get clean. Yeah. And I never even thought about that because as a bloke, you just bird bath and you get on with it. I was a diesel boat submariner, don't forget, so I could shower once a week. But I get it. When she said it like that, and she said that was without a doubt the worst part during workup, because the first thing they do is they make you tired and they stop the fresh water. So you always have a problem with the evaporators. There's never a problem with the evaporators, but they do that because it's a cheap, easy way to drag you down. Because if you're dirty, greasy, and you can't just jump in a shower to freshen up, you've got to fill a sink up and bird bath. You never get as clean as you do having a shower, do you? There's nothing like a shower, is there?
No.
You can't compare. And she said for her, that was the defining moment. She's like, why am I doing this? Anyway, she battled through, she qualified, and she's a chief now. She's got an MBE, she's done cracking stuff.
But wasn't there a thing about it being a lot more hazardous for women going down in submarines because it was...
they said for years it was all to do with damage to the unborn fetus.
Yes. The pressure being bad on the ovaries.
Blah, 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 yeah, and all this.
Not true?
Anyway, they looked into it, and it's absolute hogwash. So we just didn't do it because we didn't send women to war, whereas now we do.
But also, there's another thing about pay. You get paid more to work on a submarine than you did to go working on a ship because of the pressure. So there are
it's not the pressures, it's the knowledge. They talk. It's all to do with the fact that on a ship you can go and be a chef on a ship, and you know where the dry provision store is, the freezer is, and the galley is, and the gas compartment, and that's all you need to know. Yeah. On a submarine, everywhere your dry provision store is or the freezer, there is high pressure air, high pressure nitrogen, high voltage electricity, oil, a switchboard, a motor generator, a breaker. You have to know what it is and what to do if there's a problem. There's the difference, are you with me?
Yeah.
Because you're surrounded by it all the time. I hear it at work when the people say, oh, yeah, we all become a bit complacent, don't we? And I was like, no, don't tar me with that brush. Said every time I walk out of this control room, I think, yeah, if that comes out of that pipe, that'll kill me, that'll kill me, that'll kill me, that'll kill me, that'll kill me. Therefore, if there's a problem with it, I tell somebody, that needs fixing, that needs fixing, that needs fixing, that needs fixing. And that's going back to what I said about the start with my brother. That's why we don't tolerate things being incorrect. We go, that's not right. And when people say, oh, yeah, we all get complacent.
Not you.
No, not me.
Well, we've been speaking for, just about an hour now, and we haven't even talked about anything in particular, right? We've talked a bit about the life, but now what about your actual missions and close calls, experiences whilst out on deployment, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
You've been part of, from what you told me, covert operations. You mentioned something about spying on Gaddafi, blockades, and you've even had a disaster, which was like a near disaster, I guess. Was a collision with a Panamanian freighter.
Freighter, yeah.
And you were they thought you'd gone down, but you didn't. Looking back across your career, which of your missions and close calls stands out for you?
I met Andy McNabb and Chris Ryan from Bravo 20, before Bravo 20. We were doing sneaky beaky SAS running, dropping them off somewhere, and I didn't know at the time they were on board, but I was on HMS Otter, and my job as the forward electrical rating was to turn the lights from white to red. That's what I did. So because when you've got red lighting, your pupils go a bit bigger and you can see better. So when you go in the dark, like when somebody turns a light on and you've been asleep in and your pupils go real small, don't they? And you can't see.
To readjust, yeah.
Yeah, so what we used to do was we'd put the lights to red, and that was my job. And then if there was an electrical problem forward, fuses blown, breaker tripped, whatever, I would deal with that. So we were dropping them on this beach somewhere, and they were on board. Fast forward 8 years, and I'm with my old cadet units on 2 weeks Buckshee leave, shooting at Strensall Ranges, and the other CCF next to us, they'd brought an old boy of their school, and he had upside down parawings. They are SAS. And as soon as I seen him, because the guy said,
SAS is Super Army soldiers, right?
Yeah, special air service, but yeah, or Saturdays and Sundays if you're in the TA. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so he didn't have a berry, but he had upside down para wings, and he had a pager, and it was not the height of the troubles, but the troubles were still ongoing.
Yeah,
he said,
okay.
he said he might get called away. Anyway, so we just got chatting, and I was in combats, but with my Navy badges and my Navy berry, and just chatting. So, yeah, what do you do? I said, submariner. He said, I went on a submarine once. What was it? He said, it began with O. And so, that narrowed it down to about, 12. But anyway, and I just started rattling. And he went, that was it, Otter. I was on board. I said, what, when we did the running at the, this place? And he went, how is it? Yeah. And I don't know if you've ever seen the television program, The Paras, made in the 80s. You need to watch it. And one of the Paras instructors is called Elvis. Now, Elvis was on board for that trip. So I said, was Elvis on? He went, yeah, Elvis, yeah. So we knew then that he'd been on board the same time as me.
Right.
And we did this sneaky beaky stuff and he said, do you know what? He says, I knew you. He says, you were one of the instructors, weren't you? And so for about 30 seconds, this Special Air Service soldier thought I was one of his Special Air Service instructors. And I went, sadly, mate, no. I said, I was the foreign greenie. I turned the lights from white to red. But for 30 seconds, Special Forces trained. Nobody can take that away from me. Nobody can take it away.
Yeah. You puff your chest out a little bit for a moment in time.
Yeah, 30 seconds. Nobody can take it away. Nobody can take it away. Now, this is something we used to do on board. Wait a minute. You go when you
crack your new can.
So you don't have to buy anybody else a beer. Yeah.
For the audio listeners, that was him just covering up another beer as he opened it. You crack away, mate.
So we're just waiting on him. Is he not even up?
You were saying earlier about reenactments, and like as I mentioned, doing extra work. There are times when I get on set and you have to check in the morning, and the ADs or the staff, the crew, as they're checking you in, they ask you if what department you're working for, and sometimes they ask me, "Are you in for stunts?" And I have one of those moments like you just explained, like, no, but thanks
for yes, that's exactly it. Yeah,
I've been working out, I've been training hard. Yeah. But going back, going back to the collision that you had with the Panamanian freighter, you said it was reported in the Sun that when the incident happened, sailors heard a loud bang, followed by swearing. Was the louder of the two noises the bang or the sailors swearing?
I've got to be honest. I was in my bed when it happened.
You didn't hear it,
so. I could have said I saved the day, but no. In fact, a friend of mine who I'm going to see in November, he was actually on watch. He did the full astern and everything. He was one of my boys. Yeah, he'll laugh because he's only 3 years younger than me, but he was always my boy. You know what I mean? When you are a leader of men, they're always your boys. It doesn't matter that we're all in our 50s now. He'll always be my boy. Do you know what I mean?
Even if they were younger than you or older than you.
Yeah, but if they were junior to me, yes. If they're junior to me, my boys. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah. So anyway, I was in my bed, and it was Staff College Sea days. So we had all this posh food. We had salmon and everything, and all the food went off the table, and I got thrown out of my bed. And the bulkhead door was shut. So stand by, please. Shut bulkhead doors. Brace. And that, whoa. And of course, what's the first thing that you want to do when you wake up? Go for a wee. Mm-hmm. So now we've got about 11 of us stuck behind this bulkhead door with no toilet because the toilets were foreign. And once it all sort of calmed down and we hadn't sunk and blah de blah, and we're like, please open up the bulkhead. If you don't, I think if I remember right, we did used to keep an ice cream tub back off. We all weeded that and then pouring it down the bilge because when you wake up, that wake up wee, you've just got to wee, haven't you?
You can't. You need. If you don't do it, then you're crawling on your hands and knees.
Yeah. So that was interesting. Like I said, when we got back the papers the next day, In the sun, sailors heard a loud bang followed by swearing. I think I've still got the article somewhere. Jonah kept it. Richard Jones to you. If I find it, I will be able to find it. I'll send it on to you. And,
is that where the expression comes from, to swear like a sailor?
Quite possibly, but you've got to remember.
Or does that predate yours?
Yeah, no, it predates that because we didn't have women on board, you see. And I used to have a little switch in my head that when I was at sea or with my shipmates, you swear like a sailor.
Yeah. When women are present, you kind of tone it down.
You just switch it off, you know. Yeah. And I still do it now. I won't swear in front of a female. As soon as she swears, there you go. You just
open the floodgates.
That's it. That's exactly it. But yeah, so. This here is a golden rivet.
A golden rivet.
Drambuie and a single malt whiskey. It is absolute nectar. It's pop. And it gets your leather like that.
Drambuie? It's like a cocktail name. You call it the golden rivet.
Yeah, so you got... no, this is actually... I've just realised this isn't a golden rivet. This is a rusty nail. Because I've just realised...
It's quite different.
It is a blended malt Scotch whiskey. So there you go. So therefore, it's a rusty nail, not a golden rivet. That I thought I picked up the wrong bottle. For that to be a single malt, that would be a golden rivet. Right. Sadly, because it's blended, it's a rusty nail.
Lovely. And for those people who don't know what a golden rivet is, there's a bit of theology or like sort of mythos behind that, right?
Yes, it's back in the days of when they built battleships using rivets. They always said that the last one was a golden rivet, so that you would get people to crawl all over the ship to find the golden rivet. It
was like usually like banged in by someone of note, right? And now pronounced this vessel seaworthy or something.
Yeah. It's complete and utter urban myth. But
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was never a golden rivet.
Was it then like if you find it, then you get to keep it or something?
Yes, and all that, and So it's a complete and utter urban myth. Yeah.
Okay, well, things that aren't urban myths, we can go safely say that is things that you've experienced personally. You've worked on very different subs and ships of all sorts. But what would you say is the biggest difference between working on the Vanguard class nuclear subs between like the diesel ones?
The amount of manpower available. On diesel electrics, you noticed if a man was down. Whereas on Vanguard, there was a big pool of manpower. I mean, you still notice, but nothing like you did on diesel boats. You know, there was no slack on diesel boats. It literally, if somebody went down, you were a man down. And the workload increased and everything else. Whereas on nuclear boats, you could shuffle people around and you do that. So, it was a lot more manageable because there's 130 people on board. Yeah. So there's a difference. You've got twice the amount of people. I know for a fact Royal Navy ships will go to sea with an awful lot of people missing, whereas nuclear submarines are not allowed to do it. You cannot go unless you have got X amount of this, X amount of that man, X amount of this personnel. You just can't do it. So.
And as a man who, as you said earlier, likes to operate on the edge of a whirlpool, and if you see something, you'll fix it before you get sucked into the eye of the storm. And as you said, manpower is vital. You've saved lives, or you've at least saved one life on board.
Yeah, it was my last.
So you're fixing people as well.
Yeah, my last week on Vigilant, and basically we had a lot of electrical problems, but I was going on draft and my relief had joined and all I had to do was hand over to him. But I was given this job to do. I went to go do it and I said, well, I can do that bit because that's all dead. But I said, that's live. I said, it's got to be an easy way. So I went and rang my boss and told him, and I said, I'm going to get the books out. And by the time I'd gotten the books out, he'd come over the reactor compartment and was actually in there doing it. And I'm going, oh, mate, what are you doing? He was senior to me. He was one rank above me, so I couldn't just say to him, stop. If he'd have been equal or junior, I'd have said, stop, get your hands out, shut the door, let's reevaluate. But he wasn't. He was senior to me. And he's, oh, no, it's got to be done. It's got to be done. And I'm like, oh, please. I said, if you drop that spanner on one of them links, there'll be a big bang. All the lights will go out or you'll be horribly burned. And don't forget, I've now got the books out as well. They're sat about 6 or 8 feet away from him on the right page, AC distribution system, Vanguard class electrical submarines. And another guy who was the same rank but a different branch came along and said, "Oh, what's going on here, Barney?" I said, "He's operating when he should be supervising." And I told him, I said, if he drops the spanner or the link, big bang, all the lights will go out, be already burned. And he actually went and looked over his shoulder and he said, "Barney's got a point, you know." And he said, no, it's got to be done, it's got to be done, it's got to be done. And his last words were to him, "You're a braver man than I, Gunga Din." Anyway, he got about 10 feet behind me and he dropped the spanner. There was a big bang and all the lights went out and he's now running around like Michael Jackson with his head on fire. Okay. Literally, it was, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen burnt hair, but that's, you know, and the flash hit this side of his face, this ear, and he's smouldering. He's got 1,000-volt gloves on. I burnt myself on him as I was pulling him off him. His overalls are smouldering, and I can see his hands and his face, like, need to get him to water. So he started running around like Michael Jackson, grabbed hold of him, tripped him up, pulled his overalls off him, got him to the nearest source of water. So as I'm running the tap, he's cupping it, doing that, and I'm catching it underneath and pouring over his head, because the only things that were burnt were his hands and his head.
Yeah, so you're trying to catch him from both sides. Yes,
what seemed like a lifetime, but was probably about 2 minutes. The medics arrived, took him away, did their thing, and I was taken to one side, you know, and the XO put somebody watching me. And anyway, so we're now half an hour further on, and the guy who's injured is getting taken up to the sick bay. And the XO said, "Chief Barmby, you're going on the ambulance with him." And I said, "Sir," I said, "the links were," he said, "Chief Barmby, you are green." And I looked at my hands, and then I realised I was green. And unless you've had shock, once you've had shock, or you've seen somebody in shock, you know, and I'd never seen anybody in shock, but I realised my hands were green. Oh, because God. the adrenaline rush from going into the, what does it say in the commendation, running into the smoke-filled switchboard, fully aware of the danger. Blah. It was off. I knew it was off because the ventilation was off and the lights had gone out. So I knew it was dead. Mm. If it wasn't dead, the lights should have still been on, the ventilation had still been running, you know. And he's now going, "Ah!" Yeah. So I did all that bit, and I knew I had to get him to water and did all that. But now I'm coming down, and that's when shock sets in. You know, you see it all the time at these accidents, don't you, where people sat on the roadside just, you know, rocking because whatever's happened. I'd never suffered it before, and then it happened to me. And I was stood, I'll never forget, by the laundry on MC3 deck, and all the lads around me went, "Yeah, Barney, you're green, you're green, you're green, you're green." Oh, okay, I better go on the ambulance then. Mm. And I only had this tiniest little burn here, not even about the size of your thumb. That was it. And
but it was the whole ordeal, right?
Yes, yeah, and it was just, you know, they're coming down off it. And then, so I'm sat on the ambulance waiting for him, and he appears in a clear plastic suit, like a clown, with his hands covered in flamazine and his head covered in flamazine. Flamazine's a trade name for a anti-burn, stoppy
ointment,
whatever it is, thing. But of course, he's absolutely butt naked under this clear suit, so you can see everything. And he got.
Was he green?
No, he wasn't green. And he said, "Are you all right, Barney?" And I just looked at him and I thought, "Yeah, I'm fine, mate." And I looked at him and I thought, "You're an idiot." But anyway, we get to the sick bay. The sick bay, he went in first, and they just wheeled him straight out. They said, "We can't deal with that. Get him to Glasgow Royal." So they sent him to Glasgow Royal. So I get taken in, and it was a Wren medical assistant. I'll never forget. She was very, she was very womanly.
Vivacious.
Yes, yeah, that word. And she's like, "Oh, Chief, are you the one that's been electrocuted?" I said, No. I said, I was a witness to it. And she said, "All right, what you done?" I said, "Well, when I pulled his gloves off," I said, and I just started blubbing. There I was, this big roughy-tufty 36-year-old chief petty officer. Yeah. You know, high power EA, done all this cracking stuff, and I just started, and I was just like, it need not have happened. It just need not have happened. It just
so that just having to try to explain what happened. That was what set you off.
And it just you know, and I got a year, 18 months later, I got a Commander-in-Chief Fleet's commendation for my bravery rushing into the smoke fields with blah 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 blah, yeah, and all that. So yeah, and that was a deciding factor to me that I need to leave the Navy, because if people aren't prepared to listen to your experience and knowledge, even though once upon a time me and him had been equals, but he'd been promoted above me, but I was happy where I was. I didn't want to be promoted. So that, like, going back to, if he'd have been junior to me, I'd have said, "Stop, take your hands out, give him a good clip round the back of the head, don't be such a tool." Yeah. But I couldn't, because he was seeing it. I was like, please don't do that, mate. Please don't do that. Please stop. And the other warrant officer saw him and said, you know, he's got a point. Then, you know,
but there's that
you're an
friction.
idiot.
There's that friction of the hierarchy on board. He's
Yes.
like, no, I've got every right to do whatever I want to do because I've got.
And he did. Yeah, and
he did.
he suffered. His wife went into labour early. He couldn't pick up his newborn baby for 3 months because he had MRSA. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. All because he wouldn't listen. So.
And when you said that they said you looked green, at first, my thought was they were calling you out on being a newbie, you know, like a rookie at sea.
No, I'd actually gone the colour green because of the adrenaline rush, and it had all dropped away.
Yeah. I've not heard of that before.
Yeah, I hadn't until it happens to you, and then. But next time you see somebody in shock, you know, like I'm just trying to think when well, God, I hope I never do see somebody in shock. But on the movies, when you see somebody, you know, after the accident or whatever, and they're all, you know, that's what it is. You go green. I've
seen somebody in by a Sainsbury's checkout with a 24 crate of Stella, but the guy was yellow. And I said to the checkout operator, why are you selling him more beer? The man's got liver failure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. There's nothing to do. I don't I don't judge people's life choices. No, it's not about life choices. It's fucking. You're going to kill him.
Yes. Yeah.
You're going to be the straw that broke the camel's back. So as an instructor, you've done lots of instructing. What lessons, if there were some top lessons, you've just given one of a kind of example of just be a bit more collaborative rather than I'm the head honcho. What some of the big lessons would you like to pass on to the next generation of seamen and submariners? You
use the people around you. If you've not done it before, have the courage to go, it's a long time since I've done this. I always remember a classic example, somebody I'm still in touch with. Back in the day, you used to be able to just pump stuff into harbours and not care about it. Now you can't do that. You've got to, you know, if you pumped poo into the Thames, you know, the government would sue you in the Environment Agency. But
it wasn't common sense.
Yes, yeah. Back then, it was just the done thing. And we used to do it just before high tide so that when the tide turned, it all got sucked out to sea. And that's what it was. It was blowing forward to drop there in sewage. And he said, I've been tested with it and I can't remember. I said, well, let's work it out, you know. And I said, it's a while since I've blown forward to drop there in sewage, because don't forget, my job was back aft. And we got through it, we worked it. And he was like, oh, cheers, Barney. He said that. And I said, why didn't you ask one of the forward killicks? He said, oh, they would just say, oh, why don't you know? You should know that. And I thought, that's really bad leadership, you know, because you should be able to go to the people above you and go, got to be honest, it's a long time since I've done this, or, you know, can you just help me out here? And even now, as a civilian, I still see that people are too afraid to, and I mean, why be afraid to ask? You know, I mean, all right, if you're asking every single time, then yes, you need to book up your ideas, start making more notes.
Yeah.
You know, train yourself. But, you know, for that one time when you're going, do you know what, it's a long time since I've done this. Can somebody, you know.
Give me a refresher. Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But what's the daftest thing, besides that man who you saw and helped and went green over, what's the daftest thing you've seen someone do during training without naming names and getting anyone into trouble? Unless, of course, they really deserve it, Barney.
During training, we were, it was when I was on the Opportune, and the story got round that the DSRV, so Deep Submergent Rescue Vessel Avalon, was going to latch onto us and take a couple of lads off, and they were going to go and take mail ashore and get some fresh milk and everything. And the senior sonar operator on board thought he heard it. And these two lads were dressed in these orange suits with a bag of mail ready to go off, to go up the tower for the submarine to come and latch, the little DSRV to come and latch onto us, you know, and then they would go and have a couple of days in a bed and breakfast along on shore and then bring all the fresh produce back. And it was a complete and utter made up, and they weren't. So they thought, you know, they'd been given money by the cash officer.
Oh, they weren't really going?
And they weren't really going. And then as soon as, you know, the coxswain just stood out with the camera and went, got you. Oh,
that's evil. That's evil.
But it was so funny. Do you know what I mean? It really was. But the fact that somebody thought he was listening to it on the sonar, that's not very good when it was actually just a fishing boat. But these two lads, yeah, I won't say their names because I'm on Facebook with both of them. But yeah, it was just one of them moments in time where there were literally tears rolling down our face. You know, it was evil. You were right, and they could probably sue us now under. I don't know. Do you have? Is there a Matlow line, like child line? I don't know. You know.
No, probably not.
Are you being abused as a Matlow? You know?
Everyone's so sensitive. Everyone's so sensitive these days. Is that of interest a film or a TV series that you recommend anyone who would like to join the Navy, the submarines, whatever?
I mean, for us, it was Das Boot. I mean,
Das Boot.
Yeah.
I've seen Das Boot. Yeah. That was
the German
film.
Or the dubbed one? The German or the dubbed?
No, I watched the German and I read the subtitles.
With the subtitles? Yeah, that's okay then. If you watch dubbed, you haven't really watched.
No, I never listened to dubbed. I think that's pointless. I want to hear the emotion of the actor.
Well, the first class of submarines I worked on, the Oberon class, were basically the next generation on from them. So they were basically World War II modern submarines, for want of a better word. Okay. Still big breakers and switches and and all that. And Das Boot, I mean, I've done a go deep. We all ran forward, the alarm. We didn't shout alarm. I forget what the exact pipe was, but we used to practice it, and we used to get go deep and ding, ding. That was just brilliant, starting the engines. I did my Marine Engineering Officer watch ticket on Opportune and being in charge in that of these two V16 ASR1 diesel engines at periscope depth. And then you get stop snorting and you've got to pull this lever and shut that and stop that. And, all the drills just come back and then you're like, oh my God, now we're at however many feet. And you're like, I did that. And all you can see in your head is Das Boot and all these, it was just like that. And I would recommend it to anybody. Obviously, Vanguard class and then the Hunter Killers are completely different. But the ability to do your job quickly and well, sweep up afterwards, make sure you haven't missed anything. It's always going back to what I said earlier, train hard, fight easy. And that's what you do. And, Das Boot, definitely, without a doubt.
Das Boot is 80s film, right?
Yes, about 81, 82 it was made, yeah.
Yeah, my granddad, God rest his soul, he had a VHS tape of it and it just looked epic from the front cover and I watched it again and again. Great film. Yeah. Trying to make things lighter and more jovial, talking about pop culture references and things. Jokes, sketches, one just came into my mind. It's not Navy related, but there was that, Mayday, Mayday, we are sinking, can you hear us? And then radio static switches, hello, this is the German Coast Guard. And it's like, we are sinking. And then there's like this young, timid guy who's, on his first day of the job, and he's like, doesn't know how to respond. He's obviously German, so he's speaking in English. He's like, what are you thinking about?
Very good. Yes, very good.
Do you have any good submarine jokes?
Oh, I've got an excellent picture of two submarines fighting. And all it is a picture of the sea. And it's just epic. And it's one of them, you have a picture and it's just a picture of the sea, epic submarine battle. And everyone's looking at it. I mean, I'm involved with Bridlington Armed Forces Day, and a few years we've put a sign up saying submarine racing, 14:30 hours, viewing point. And you'll go, and there'll be people stood there, and you're like,
yeah,
really?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
I can't see anything.
Yeah.
I've got to start digging.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You've given a huge amount of your time to like the cadets and veterans groups and things, as you just sort of mentioned, with the Sea Cadet units, etc. But what keeps you, Barney, so dedicated to helping others?
There's a lot of people worse off than me, and I had a good career in the Navy, as well paid. I've got a good second career. I've got a good pension. I've got a roof on my head, food in my belly, clothes on my back.
Jamboree in your glass?
A rusty nail.
Rusty nail, yeah.
And I don't know, there's always somebody worse off than you, and if you can't help others, you are failing as a human. And it's something that on board, you've got to work as a team. Everybody's got to work together, because you're only as strong as your weakest link, aren't you? And if your weakest link is not getting any help, not getting the support he needs, or they need, whatever you want to call it in this politically correct world that we live in, I think we failed, So if I can help somebody, I will. Whether it's the submariner in me, whether it's the Yorkshireman in me, blame my parents, perhaps, I don't know, because my dad would be giving you his last penny if he could help you, I don't know. I don't know what gave me that, but that's what I try and do. And I couldn't say that was my service. I couldn't say that was my upbringing.
Well, he was a farmer, wasn't he? Your dad was a farmer.
My dad was a farmer,
he's instilled some good values in you from an early age.
Yeah. And,
most definitely.
I mean, without farmers, my middle brother is a farmer, and without them, feeding the nation, I mean, I make electricity at my work, but do you know what? You can actually live without electricity, can't you? Because you can gather wood, you can build a fire, and you can cook stuff on it. But if there's nothing to cook, you can't. And then you've got a problem. If all the shelves are empty, and you can't go into the garden to dig potatoes up or, gather your apples or, it's a different ballgame, isn't it? So
absolutely. But you've kind of gone philosophical on the beginnings of teachings and what's the most important thing and the list of requirements for us to exist. I like that. It's very good, Barney. If Submarines had TripAdvisor reviews, what would you rate some of yours and why? Oh,
vigilant. Vanguard class submarines, very spacious, lots of hot and cold running water, laundry facilities, excellent, food outstanding. Oberon class submarines, 2 choices, eat it, don't eat it. Wash once a week or don't wash at all.
Very good. How many cups of tea does it take to power a submarine?
We were, now this is a little bit bizarre because I actually went off caffeine while I was at sea because it used to keep me awake. But to start with, I used to have 3 or 4 a watch, but I wasn't sleeping. So I ended up and I started drinking herbal tea and hot chocolate. But I always remember one of the guys, one of the charge chiefs, I won't say his name, lovely bloke, but he was a heart attack waiting to happen. He used to have 2 heaped spoonfuls of Nescafe in only a real small cup, a pusser's cup, and 3 sugars. And that was, he'd have one of them an hour. I mean, we did drink an awful lot of tea. Yeah, we did. Tea, coffee.
Yeah, so let me rephrase the questions. How many hot beverages, cups of hot, does it take to a submarine running?
At least 1 an hour. Sometimes 2, but I mean now in my work, because I shift work, I have 1 or 2, maybe 3 a shift. Whereas on board it is every hour. I mean now I do 12 hours, and I might have 1, maybe 2, sometimes 3. So that times change. I mean all the youngsters now, they all drink water. Oh, do you want a cup of tea, mate, or a coffee? Oh no, water.
I have.
But they'll drink Monster. 2 o'clock in the morning, a can of Monster comes out. And you're like that. You're like, oh, I'm all right. I'm awake now. No, you're not. You're not awake. It's completely drug-induced, isn't it? Or caffeine-induced or whatever it is.
Yeah. Different strokes, different folks. If you could design your dream submarine, what ridiculous luxury would you have to insist be included?
A jacuzzi.
Oh, hold on. It's all men on board.
No, it's just for being immersed in hot water.
I guess that is, yeah.
Because Russian submarines actually have about a 6 foot by 8 foot pool of water. I don't know what temperature it's at, but if you Google it, you will see there is images on the big Typhoon class of these. And I just said, why didn't we have a jacuzzi? We could have had one. Yeah. And it just take away all your aches and pain. We've got all that fresh water we're making, just to chill out and
feel weightless.
Yes, yeah. I mean, especially now, because since my back's gone, I mean, I love jacuzzis now, and I've just, and swimming. It just takes all my pain goes away from my back and my leg. It's just, it's a bit like golden rivets. They take all the pain away as well.
Yes. Last couple. You said about the worst nickname earlier was Seal Clubber or something?
Seal Pup. Yeah, everybody wants to club him to
everyone. Yeah. Why do they say shipshape and Bristol fashion?
It's just everything's right. It's all in its place, lashed down. It's not causing a noise shock to the pressure hull. It's just where it should be. So that if the ship or submarine rolls, it's not because I mean you've seen it on the cruise liners, haven't you? When they hit rough weather and See, we never suffered that on board. Everything before we sailed, it was fastened in, and if it wasn't transmitting noise from that bit of kit to the pressure hull, it had to be, jammed in, tied in, not making a noise short. It was ship shape and Bristol fashion.
But why is it Bristol? What's Bristol's fashion got to do with it?
I believe it was something to do with the merchant navy, because it was a big merchant. The everything from the Empire came in via Bristol.
Yeah.
All our woodland industry and cotton and whale oil came in and all that kind of stuff, and it was just Bristol was deemed to be and yet it's not a very big port now, isn't Bristol? Is it?
No. Yeah, but that is the answer I was fishing for. I did the quick Google and I was just testing you.
Oh, right. Okay.
But I didn't know enough, and I wanted to see if you knew more. So
you're right. No, to me, it was we did used to use it on board ship shape in Bristol fashion. It's like 3 square meals a day. Where does that come from?
Oh God, maybe Shakespeare.
No, they used to do it on square plates. They were in squares, so it was 3 square meals a day. Yeah,
what, on the subs, on the ships?
Oh, no, this is on wooden ships. By Nelson's time.
Oh,
scran. What's scran? Do you know what scran is?
Food.
Yeah. What's it short for?
Scrandiddlyumptious.
Oh, so close. No cigar. Sultanas, currants, raisins, and nuts to ward off scurvy.
Oh wow! Sultanas, currants,
raisins, and nuts.
And nuts. It's not like apricots.
Scran. No.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay. All right. Last one. What is a scuttlebutt?
Absolutely no idea.
Okay.
Never heard of it. And I did Google it, but I'm not going to say that I have no idea.
You can't pass it off like you knew what it was.
No. I was like, never heard that before.
Okay. Well, then, if anyone wants to know what that is, tough beans. We don't know the answer.
Yeah,
I'd Googled it, but hey, I'm quizzing Barney today.
Yeah, no, I'd never heard of it. It must be an American term. It's got to be an American term.
Probably is.
I'm on LinkedIn, and there was somebody going on about what does it mean being a veteran? Should we be veterans? Should we be former MOD employees? Should we rename ourselves? And somebody I was trained as a submariner, and the ethos, the honesty and the integrity and the work ethic that I have as a submariner, I've brought into civilian life. Some people don't like that because they don't like honesty, integrity, admitting your failures, holding your hand up when you're wrong. Yes, I did that. Jonah, in fact, told me this story. He was doing some HR training. Oh, I love the term HR. And the guy who was teaching him was ex-Navy. And he said, what happens in the Navy if you get something wrong and something happens? Well, they look at, were you trained, were you current, were you competent, were you authorised to do it? Yes, you were, but what went wrong? Well, you didn't know this bit. So the Navy goes, okay, so to prevent that happening again, we need to have this bit of training. Whereas in the civvy street, if you get something wrong and they say, oh, who did that? And you put your hand up and you go, oh, that was me. And they go, oh, well, were you current, right, you're fired. And there's the difference. If you admit your mistake in Civvy Street, you're fired. And this HR guy who's ex-Navy spoke, and I was like, my God, he's so right. People are afraid to say, I got it wrong, but you're human. If you get it wrong, hold your hand up. I mean, I work with 4 or 5 Royal Navy veterans and an Army veteran, and we'll all go, yeah, it was me. I got that wrong. And others will, and like, I've just watched you get that wrong, and you're not prepared to put your hand up and go, that was me. So when people tell you stuff, you've got to question yourself, well, are they really telling the truth? But again, it goes back to the start when I was saying about the civilian ethos and the military ethos, is you learn by your mistakes, adapt, and make yourself better from it. Don't fire people because they've got the guts to go, I did that. That was me. That was my cock up. I don't know. I mean, because I don't forget. I mean, I lived it for 22 years, 2 months and 2 days. My time in the TA before that. But when you're in the military, you're full on life. They're your neighbours, the people you go out socialising with. When you're away, they're your family. For 3-4 months, they're your family. You know all about their mums, their dads, their kids, their cousins, and then. Well,
yeah. You're in a metal tube for 6 months, so you're going to know a lot about them very quickly.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So there's nowhere else you get that apart from the military. That's the easiest way,
Well, yeah. obviously we could talk, I'm sure, for a lot longer, but we do need to wrap things up.
All right, yeah, my
Barney,
apologies.
but-
Yeah,
no,
sorry.
don't apologise. Of course, this is like your life's work condensed into a short window of time, as best as I can and you can manage. But if we're going to end out on a high, what would you say, looking back to everything, was the one memory, or one of the memories, should I say, that makes you smile the most?
Sitting in a pool in Stavanger in Norway, where the first Gulf War had just started, and I was sat in the pool. We'd pulled the pool furniture into the pool, and I was a smoker then, and we had an ashtray floating on the surface, and I had a duty-free cigar and a can of beer in my hand. I was like, and I thought, and I want to go commando helicopter support, hanging out the size of a Sea King. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. It was just one of them, if you could have filmed it, it would have been, and the ashtray was just, it was only me in the pool.
Yeah.
It was ice cold outside, but I was down to here and just my hand out like my can of beer and cigar. It was one of them moments, and I thought, yeah, I don't want to go and hang outside of a Sea King with a GPMG. No, I'll stick being a submariner.
Yeah. You're committed to making the most of your downtime, no matter regardless of the weather conditions.
Absolutely, you've got. Do you know what? And it's so bizarre. I was actually chatting.
It's a very British mindset.
Yeah, the other day. But when we used to go on jollies, we'd spent 2, 3, 4 months cocooned together and living in each other's pockets, basically. And then we'd get alongside and we'd go on a jolly, and then we'd all end up in one hotel room, all partying, and then we'd all go ashore. And you could see us in the corner in the nightclub. We were all just all together, or there'd be a pool in the hotel. And you'd go in, and there was a massive hotel, and we'd all be huddled in the corner because they're my family. They're my brothers. Not brothers and sisters now, I suppose. But,
yes.
You just... I mean, I know for a fact I can pick up where I left off. When I see my mate my mate, I have not seen him since 1993. And I guarantee you, this on the 1st of November, when I see him, we'll pick up like that, and it's as though we've never been apart.
Yeah, well, it's like that with a lot of things. When you spend so much time, close proximity with people.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with somebody, I haven't spoken to him in about 10 years, but it was as if yesterday we were back on boards, And
that is exactly what it's all about.
That's why I like this niche. This Deck Tales is it's the gift that keeps on giving.
It's my turn to ask questions now. So
no, that's it. Good night.
So
been lovely having you on. And
what are you doing, and why are you doing this? What is this all about? Because I seen Jonah's post, and I thought, I can do that.
Yeah.
So here I am doing it, but why are you doing it? What does it matter to you?
Well, I'm just a curious person by nature. I love to hear stories. In a nutshell, I've got 2 books. One's published, as I said, and the other one is still on the shelf. And as a result of kind of not getting this book published, I sort of started this podcast in a way to sort of fact check some of the stuff I'd read and researched. And it just became a kind of like a snowball. And now I've got more interest in so many other niches within the maritime industry. That it's kind of an addiction, I guess. But
good.
I love it. Everyone who's got stories is welcome on this show, whether they think they're good stories or not.
Well, the thing is, once those people are gone, I always remember, this is probably a very good one to finish it on. I left the Navy in August 2008, and I started then regularly attending Bridlington Royal Naval Association. And they said, we need the standard carrying at this old guy's funeral. And they said, you can walk. And I realised I was 40, and the next youngest to me was 70. And so, can you carry the standard? So I said, right, I'll carry the standard. And I carried the standard. And in fact, it was where I went to the funeral today. Oh. And they sent me up the front, and I said, can I have some training? And they said, well, yeah, there you go. There's a standard. I was like, okay, thank you very much for that. So I had to put this thing on, and the white gloves and all that. And I said, what are you doing? He said, you just, like that. And anyway, as I was dipping the standard at the front of the crematorium thing, the corner of it just brushed on the corner of his coffin, and then it ended up in front of me, and it did all that bit. And then it's only as I was walking out and I seen the picture of the guy, I realised I actually knew him, and he was an Arctic convoy veteran. And I had not seen him for 4 or 5 years because he'd stopped going to R&A meetings because he was too old and couldn't get out. But all his stories had then gone. So when I became chairman of Bridlington RNA, I brought this form out and said, we need to put all our service history in there, because then when we're gone, somebody can go, look, And my brother lived in Bridlington back then, the eldest one that was ex-Navy, and they got on like house on fire because we're all matlows. I don't know if you know the term matlow.
What is the acronym? Is it an acronym?
No, it's a French term for a fish, I believe. You'll have to Google. I'm sure it's French. It's matelot. It's matelot.
Oh,
we just say matlows.
Okay,
and I was being all Gallic then, wasn't I? And I just realised then that without it being written down, it's all forgotten. So the likes of your podcast, brilliant. The likes of books, Jonah, the books he's written, it's brilliant.
Well, we're going to keep trying to persevere and help more people share their stories so they don't get forgotten. And, not everyone has it in them like yourself to write a book. So this is the best format, the best forum to share those stories.
Sterling work. Doing a good job.
Thanks, man.
You're doing it, Sam.
I will do. And I'll send you a copy, courtesy free, to download as an audiobook if you prefer.
No, don't worry. I pay for it. I always buy my books off Jonah, so I can't be doing me free. I know I'm a Yorkshireman and I'm tight, but no. Let me know how much it is and I'll...
Oh, bless you. All right. Well, it's on Amazon as an audiobook, or you can get it as a paperback. Just let me know your preference. I'll send you the link and you can decide. And that goes for you listening at home as well. It's a lot of work doing an audiobook and getting a book published as well. And it takes a lot to come back from having spent 2 years of your life trying to write a follow-up that no one's interested in, because they say you all need to, in order for us to take you seriously. I'm sorry, I'm not addressing you. I'm addressing the viewers here. I never do this.
I can see because your eyes are not looking at me. Don't worry, I know you're talking to them. Don't worry.
It takes a lot to pull yourself up after rejection after rejection after rejection, and they just say, "Oh, well, how many followers have you got?" And it's like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. So, not one to be defeatist. This is, again, one of the reasons why the podcast exists, because I want to hear stories. I want to share stories and try to help do some good as well. But yeah, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you this evening, Barney. We could go on, I'm sure, until the sun comes up, and I'd have to nip out and get
Don't worry, I've got I can keep going all night here, shit, mate. Don't you worry about that.
I know you can.
I've worked with I know merchant Navy sailors, and I tell you what, they're just like matlows. They're just the same, but they're not as uniform as we are. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Here you go, actually. Here's an excellent book. It seems we're...
Seeing as we're promoting literature.
Here we go, look. That book there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I had the chief officer, the chief engineer, and the senior night steward. I had them in my bar in the Cozy Nuke in the last year with the chart that the chief officer navigated into the Falkland Sounds during the Falklands conflicts, and they were the first ship in, and that was in my bar. And they gave me this book. They didn't give me this book. I bought this one, but I got them to sign it. And you know what? Nobody can take that away. I tell you what, when I seen that chart, you could actually see where the sellotape had been, because it was a photostat. You remember photostats before photocopiers?
Yeah.
Photostat. You could see where the sellotape had been to hold it together.
Oh, we'll get them on the pod. If they're still about, we should get them on the pod.
Do you know what? I've got the contact case. Absolutely. We can do that,
dude. We've got to wrap it up, because it's going to be a nightmare to edit. And I love hearing your stories. It's the hardest thing sometimes, saying goodbye. But listen, we're connected now, and we forever shall be. And then obviously, as we go, we'll hopefully hear from more submariners, more naval people. Deck Tales is just beginning to enter this side of the world.
Merchant Navy. I'll get them. Yeah, I'll get them. Yeah.
It's like bingo from this point on, right? Full House or Pokemon or whatever analogy you want.
Pokemon.
You got to collect them all, my friend.
Yeah.
But on that note, I must say goodbye. Lovely. Which way are we going to do it? Is it?
We're going to do it in the Navy. Very good. Carry on.
Carry on, sir. Thank you very much. It was lovely to talk to you. And stay well. Watch that back. Ta-ra. So there you have it. That wraps it up for this episode of Deck Tales. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've been entertained by the tales of laughter, camaraderie and the occasional stormy sea, then don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment. There are lots of other shows out there to compete with, so if you are enjoying Deck Tales, why not help us out by going over to Spotify or Apple and dropping us a 5-star rating. This will boost the show's visibility and help to attract new listeners every week. Before I sign off, if you'd like to share your own stories for future episodes, then I'd love to hear from you. Simply get in touch over the socials, because after all, the best stories often come from our listeners. As we navigate through the waters of life, remember to enjoy the journey as much as the destination, as well as those you choose to share the adventure with. I've been your Captain Sammy Catlin. Until next time, fair winds, smooth sailing, and may your adventures be as unforgettable as those shared here on Deck Tales. Bon voyage!